Where is change happening? It's happening fastest in cities. I think you know that, yeah? And the thing that fascinates me about this change is its speed and its scale. And in Western Europe, it's easy to miss out on a really proper appreciation of that. And it's only when you go to high growth markets and you talk to people in Lagos, for example, about urbanization that you realize the size and the complexity of the challenge that this massive growth of cities poses for everyone, for society, and above all, for the people that are supposed to be governing those societies on a city level, the mayors, on a regional level, and on a national level. It's not just the speed and the scale of that mass migration, though. It's the sheer complexity of what a city is. You think about what a city is, it's complex, it involves houses and shelter, but it also involves power, electricity, fresh water. It involves jobs and livelihoods and economics, healthcare provision, education provision. Cities are really complex things. They're complex organisms that bring lots of different trends and technologies together. And we are all actors in this urban drama. I mentioned that the job of the mayor is a really difficult one, and they can't do it alone. Policymakers can't manage sustainable urban transformation on their own. They need input, collaboration, and help from the private sector and from civic society. And I imagine that one of the things that brings you here, and I hope it does, is to explore the possibilities for collaboration, for alliance, finding ways to align the interests of the policymaker with the interests of business, which is ultimately to make money, and the interests of grassroots community activists, which is, I suppose, to make their communities better places to live for everyone. You're either horrified by this mass urbanization and wake up screaming in the middle of the night thinking, my goodness, there's going to be 40 million people living in Lagos in 2050, or you might see it as a great opportunity, a way to rethink existing old 20th century or even 19th century models about transport, about job creation, about education. We can think big, progressive thoughts because the size of the challenge demands it. Now, we're here mainly tonight to talk through a very nice, neat, concise manifesto for change. A lot of people have spent a lot of time thinking about this challenge of urbanization and trying to distill some ideas into a workable manifesto. And we're going to hear from some of the architects and the actors behind this manifesto tonight. Do the ideas stack up? Are you satisfied with them? It's going to be your opportunity to quiz the people that have created this and put them on the spot and challenge them. Is it workable? Let's see.
I live in the city of Santo André, located in the metropolitan region of São Paulo, Brazil. I was born on a coffee plantation in the countryside. When I was 2 years old, my father died, and my family was forced to migrate to the city, looking for work, looking for survival. We bought a shop in a favela, a slum. As a teenager living in the slum, I saw what living on the margin of social policies does to people. I learned the meaning of social exclusion and the class prejudice. But considering ourselves victims does not to overcome this condition. The neighborhood where I lived was a risky area, with a polluted stream that ran past the house, and no formal water, and sweets flying or pavement. The first time we organized a community meeting to fight for neighborhood improvement, I had to speak with a microphone and loudspeaker on top of a truck. I was 16. Today, I am the president of Slum Dwellers movement in my city. However, the youth do not know our history, even though their parents worked and longed hard to ensure decent housing for their family. So, in 2009, we created the Young Environment Leaders Project with support from the UNOHABITAT Youth Fund. These are just some examples of what we did. So tonight, I wish to remind everyone here that it is important to include the youth in decision-making process at all levels of society. Many youth are disenchanted about the value of their participation in society. I want to leave you with an invitation to youth everywhere. Occupy the spaces of discussion in your cities. Say what public policies need to be developed. Get involved in decisions. We need youth as agents of transformation of our cities. Thank you.
Today I want to share with you briefly some of the challenges and stories and the really bold initiatives that we've seen taken by young people around Asia Pacific. And from that I want to share with you what is my 1 minute of change. Habitat is playing in supporting young people already. We've seen this through the creation of the World Urban Youth Forum, which was held yesterday, and also through the Opportunities Fund for Urban Youth-Led Development, of which Edgy was a recipient, which is really exciting. And these initiatives are really important because right now on this planet, almost 3 billion people are young people. That's 3 times the population of China, it's larger than the population of India. Collectively, young people are the largest tribe on the planet. So if there's ever a time to consider the role of young people in the design and planning of cities, it's now. Imagine that you're 21, you're a young mother living in a slum in Phnom Penh in Cambodia in the banks of the Mekong River. The community floods every year, your houses have to be rebuilt. Youth unemployment is high, but the main issue is that the community is facing threat of eviction. The neighbouring slum was bulldozed just last year, and everyone's living with a sense of fear and uncertainty. People like Shrenya, who's this person in this story, this colleague and friend of mine, are the face of the 21st century city, a young woman living in a slum. We find people like Shrenya living in every country, in every city around the world, people facing social exclusion, youth unemployment, lack of participation, who may or may not have the right to vote. But amongst these challenges, we see young people like Ferreira emerging as community leaders. At age 21, she was able to mobilise her community to tackle that threat of eviction. And she and I worked together on creating a public space in her community that not only resolved the flooding issues, but reduced that threat of eviction. It was supported by young people in Australia, and it was delivered by the community together. It's with young people working together to support other young people that are driving change in cities around the world. And particularly, how can we mobilise older generations to work together with young generations? Youth issues are not just youth issues, they're everyone's issues. So how can we work together in mentoring so that we can learn and build capacity? So my 1 minute for change, which is actually now 10 seconds of change to summarise, is that I think that people are the greatest, most creative resource that we have to shape and improve our neighbourhoods. And what young people need is in fact not more strategies and resolutions, although those have a place, but it's simply an opportunity to be involved. And I believe if we give the voice and the platform to young people, then change will happen by itself. Thanks.
When faced with a looming challenge. Our ancestors in Africa used to gather under the big village tree to examine the looming crisis and together work out a common strategy to avoid or to mitigate the negative effects of the crisis. This practice of binding heads together, embedded in our traditions, finds its expression in the Malawi adage that says, one head cannot carry a roof. Today, as we embrace the urban future and face with the challenge of rapid urbanization and the urbanization of poverty, it is right and proper that we go back to the wisdom of our ancestors and come together to exchange knowledge, ideas, and experiences. We have come together to influence policies, thoughts and practices, to deliberate and decide on actions to address a common issue, and to establish networks and a platform for working together in partnerships and for pulling together. By the mid-20th century, 3 out of 10 people on the planet lived in urban areas. Today, half the world's population lives in urban areas, and by the middle of this century, all regions will be predominantly urban, with Africa being the fastest growing urban region. We know that the urban future is here with us. We also know that there are challenges which are as follows. 1, in Africa and many developing countries, urban expansion is often characterized by informality, illegality, and unplanned settlements. Specifically, urban growth has been strongly associated with poverty and slum growth. Secondly, our cities are divided cities. Divided in terms of income inequality, space inequality, inequality of opportunities, especially for the growing youth population, and inequality in access to social services such as health and education. And thirdly, our cities are increasingly being exposed to disasters, including the vagaries associated with climate change. The convergence of urbanization and climate change threaten economies, physical infrastructure, public health, quality of life, and social stability. Should the urban future be a cause for alarm? The answer to this question depends on the decisions we make today, including those of the Manifesto for Cities that we elaborate as we move towards a global urban agenda for Habitat 3. We have enough reasons to ensure that urbanization is sustainable because we do not have a choice to do otherwise. Cities are therefore important for the following reasons. 1, cities contribute disproportionately to the GDP. For example, in Malawi, the country, cities account only for 20% of the population and less than 5% of the land area, but they contribute up to 65% of the GDP of the country. Cities have the infrastructure, technology, skills, physical assets, and human capital necessary for economic growth and poverty reduction. Cities are centers of education, employment, enterprise, and innovation. Cities are centers of politics, culture, and social cohesion. Cities are centers of excellence in the provision of social services. Cities generate a disproportionate amount of revenue for government in national taxes, as I've already said. Cities are engines of national development. If we take the right decisions, we have the right and effective policies that promote sustainable urbanization, we will ensure that urbanization becomes a vehicle for poverty reduction and the attainment of the Millennium Development Goals. For this reason, we need to underscore the need to plan our cities properly, because well-planned cities are the ones that can make the urban future truly sustainable. Let me remind the gathering here that if we do not take the right decisions today, and if we do not have the right policies, we run the risk of condemning more urban dwellers to live in poverty and to making the cities fail to fulfill their potential for poverty reduction. We run the risk of creating cities that, instead of playing their role as engines for economic growth, are sites of deprivation, social exclusion, crime, and instability. We run the risk of creating cities that impede environmental sustainability because of large ecological footprints and their significant contribution to climate change. A sustainable urban future is only possible through the fostering of partnerships at all levels involving the international community, governments at all levels, private sector, academia, and professionals, as well as urban dwellers, including women and youth. We need to commit ourselves to take action to change cities, each one fully playing their part. The partnerships which the World Urban Campaign seeks to foster are fundamental to these efforts. At the national level, national urban forums would provide a platform for such partnerships. In Malawi, where a national urban forum has now been in existence for the past 5 years, we have seen how the engagement of partners ranging from politicians, government officials, private sector, academia, media, and the slum dwellers themselves is contributing to policy reforms for the urban sector. While urbanization rates are highest in sub-Saharan Africa, it is a region with limited resources to deal with rapid urbanization, a process requiring high levels of capital investment and technical resources. In Africa, the proportion of total donor funding for urban needs is 2 to 12% of their total assistance in the region. There is no doubt that this proportion must increase if we have to attain sustainable urbanization. However, if increased investment is critical, even more critical is the urgent need to find better mechanisms for providing the poor with housing, water, and sanitation. Government commitment and leadership is fundamental to achieving sustainable urbanization. The challenge will be to turn this political will into concrete commitments and action for the urban sector. This will then have to be translated into national policies and priorities, as well as concrete budgetary commitments to support sustainable urbanization. Key to managing sustainable urbanization are local governments. There is no doubt that local authorities are the frontline actors in finding local answers to these challenges. With many countries adopting decentralized frameworks, the local authorities now have a key role to manage urbanization. At the root of many of the challenges in addressing urbanization and urban poverty is weak local government. Many local authorities, especially in the developing world, do not have adequate staffing, technical skills, or financial capital to tackle existing urban problems, let alone new challenges generated by rapid urbanization. It is simply impossible to keep up with the infrastructure and service needs of rapidly growing populations. Greater attention will therefore have to be paid to institutional strengthening and capacity development of local authorities. Finally, to begin to address the challenges of the urban future, there is no better space to start out on this exciting but challenging journey than this forum, composed of those of us who believe in the fact that it is possible for the planet to urbanize sustainably. Above all, what is required is the self-reliance of the people and their engagement in the urbanization process, the political will of leaders and the expertise of the professionals, practitioners, and academia to lead the knowledge construction and the sound implementation of policies and programs within a transparent governance framework and strong institutions. Today, we have the opportunity to decide to do something. This World Urban Campaign and UNOHABITAT 3 will be meaningful only if we can use these platforms to begin to truly change the cities, to resolve to strengthen working together through partnerships, and to an awakening of the urban challenges and opportunities before us. Let us all be the city changers. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you so much.
Pragmatic, but also upbeat in a way. And now we've heard from Africa, from an East Asian perspective and Brazil. Let's bring it home.
First of all, I'd really like to congratulate the mayor of Naples for having opened up the shore of the seaside to the public. And now we in Agadir have done the same, and we've got 5 kilometers of coastland without traffic. We have done this because we too believe that public spaces must be places of meeting where people can come together. I believe that this is of fundamental importance too, like you.
D'accord, bien, on va parler plus fort. Alors, si vous n'avez pas entendu, je félicite le maire de Naples pour la promenade piétonne.
The mayor of Naples for having made the coastal area pedestrian only.
L'humanité s'est construite autour de groupes humains. Aujourd'hui, on sait très bien qu'il y a plus de 50%
Mind is built around human communities, and we now know that the majority of mankind lives in cities. So this session here today is a session that aims at the production of this manifesto of the cities. I think that's very important. We say that the future is the future, but civilization this is not the end of civilization. This manifesto mustn't just be wishful thinking. This is the second time there has been a manifesto. There was a manifesto for the 21st century, and it's built around very strong ideas. We've got to change this society of waste and inequalities run by a form of capitalism that is very wild. We have problems of unemployment and it's very sad that the French minister isn't here with us, because we could have heard from her how they are planning to solve some of their problems in their country. This morning, you know, when I arrived, my taxi driver, when I told him I was going to the forum, on Urban Forum, he said, well, in order to make cities develop, we've got to change those who are in elected office. I don't think he was talking about the mayor of Naples, but he certainly was talking about this. Many people, including in Morocco, say that those who are elected are not doing what they were elected to do. I think that's a basic question, and we find that again in this manifesto on the question of governance. That is the focus of success for the future, if we are to be successful in the future. Now, we mayors meet our citizens every day, and we hear their needs. And the state, on the other hand, can sometimes be an obstacle to local development. And that's why we're hoping in Morocco to introduce something new, focusing on decentralization and giving greater power to the local elected officials in a program of regionalization. And we have examples in Europe to follow, like Italy, Spain, France, where there are countries that have focused more on the regionalization of powers. In our cities, for the past 10 years, I was elected in 2003, we have tried to provide the basic services, water, transport, electricity, and so on, and we're trying to do all this in our local authorities. Young people today can no longer be young people unemployed, just hanging about on the streets, and culture is very important as well as sport. And also we're working on the neighborhoods and how to make them more complete and more social spaces. The manifesto that we'll be discussing today contains topics that are very important and that we will be talking about a lot. But we need funding for this, and if there is not going to be any funding, the speculators will take over and will, in a sense,
Sorry, Je voudrais aussi parler de la question de l'environnement.
We're talking about the question of the environment because I think this is something that goes through and through all our discussions. Sustainable sustainability. These are the topics, and in countries like ours, when we talk about human settlements, there are rules and regulations that must foster the building of houses and buildings that use less energy. This is essential. All of this will mean that if we do not have strongly environmental policies, we will not succeed. City planning, for example. I've heard people talk about megacities. Now, wait, we must be careful. We must have balance. We should not have cities with 15 million inhabitants. It would be better to have many large, medium-sized cities and smaller cities as well. This is very important, rather than just having mega cities like they have in Asia and also in other parts of Africa from ours. And I think it would also be interesting that if in this forum, not only we have an exchange, but we decide together, but we also establish a sort of observatory to see and to follow or monitor the achievements of this manifesto, not to leave it to stagnate like the manifesto written by Karl Marx.
I appreciate that we set you all a very difficult challenge to try and explain the complexity of urbanization in a few minutes, and it simply can't be done. But one of the things that I'll take away from listening to those presentations is the focus on egalitarian approaches to urban planning. That came through loud and clear from all of you, and also the emphasis on public space. And these are things that every city can do. Every city has space. It's how do you make the most of that space? Please give our panel a warm round of applause. Thank them. They've come a long way to be here.